All good? Hi everyone, can everyone hear me okay? All good at the back? Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time. I know it's a long day. We've just about got our voices left, so we'll try and bring some energy to the session because I know it is a long one for you. Today we're going to be talking about how to gain market share in an increasingly dynamic online marketplace. Very fancy title. Essentially what we're going to be talking about today is surveys and insights that we've done over the past couple of years. We've done about 3 or 4 sentiment studies looking at consumers coming out of the pandemic. Yes, I will probably say the P and the C word today, the good ones. But what we're going to be looking at is not the negatives about it, but the opportunities which have come out of the pandemic. And as we move forward, a lot of the changes in consumer habits and their lifestyles aren't just going to affect how we operate as an industry now, but it's going to affect how they operate and how we operate as an industry going forward. Okay, so a lot of what we're going to be talking about, there will be some things that you can go away and maybe action straight away, but a lot of what we're going to be talking about is for you to go away and just ask yourself questions as a business. You know, we don't usually get the opportunity in our day-to-day to sit down and actually reflect on what things are going well, what things could we do better. You know, we're so busy all the time, so take this opportunity, you know, to, again, speak to your partners, come over to our booth as well and have a chat with us after this. But if anything, if we can, you know, at least get you to go away with 1 or 2 questions that you can ask yourselves as a business of what can we do better and how can we adapt, then that'll be a successful day for us. So just to introduce ourselves, so my name is Dan Delderfield, account director here at CarGurus, and I'm joined by my colleague Nathan.
Thank you, Dan. As mentioned, my name is Nathan Quayle, National Account Director at CarGurus also. And over the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to take you through 3 main sections of the presentation. We're going to go through the current UK environment. There'll be no surprises there, but we'll show you the trends that we've seen across our platform over the past 18 months or so. We'll then go through, Dan will go through some consumer habits and shifts. So we'll show the demand creation that has applied over the past 18 months or so, and what exactly has caused that demand creation. And then we'll go through some tips you can take away to your own retailers and implement that is made up of the first 2 sections. So all of the opportunities that have arisen over the past 18 months. So we kick off with the current UK environment. Now this will be no surprise to anybody. Used cars have been hard to come by over the past 18 months or so. And as the graph suggests on the screen, if we go left to right, this was end of 2019 all the way through to current day. We've got the big dip just in the middle. Obviously, that's the decline when COVID hit. And this is based off our vehicle availability index. That is advertised vehicles. So this isn't physical stock on forecourts. This is advertised vehicles online. A lot of retailers closed their operations, and they did pull a lot of stock off aggregator platforms. So that's the big dip we can see there. Didn't last too long, which shows the resilience of our industry and all of the ingenuity that was behind it. So that big increase that you see shortly after in the middle, that's made up of these click and collect models that came about, delivery models, and all the innovation that came about of how do we get vehicles to customers in a really difficult time where the doors aren't open. Then, because it's never easy in our industry, we got hit again by supply shortages. So the gradual decline you see from the middle all the way to the right-hand side, that was made up from semiconductor issues, parts issues, logistical issues, where new car availability dwindled. Obviously, if we're selling no new cars, we've got no part exchanges, we've got no used cars coming into the mix. And that we've seen on our platform a slow decrease in inventory over that amount of time as well. So in the same time period, all things remaining constant, if you've got less supply, prices will increase. So I'll go into the demand piece in a bit. We all know demand has been very hot. It's not just stayed stagnant. So prices have been driving up all the way from the mid-2020 all the way through to present day. Then price increases have been accelerating. So they've not just been going up gradually. They've really been motoring along over the past 3 months or so. So we've seen average used vehicle listing price jump by 6.2% in August. And it's up 28.6% year on year across our platform. And then the third graph I've got for you is that vehicles are getting purchased faster. So not only are there less vehicles in the market, not only do they cost more, that's obviously not putting customers off buying the vehicles. Our stock turn has been increasing month on month. although on the right-hand side here it says 18.4% year on year, if you look at the graph, most of that is almost a 40% decrease in the past 6 months. So cars are selling a lot quicker. And although it's not on here, we've just got October's data through. And again, that line is continuing to go down. Cars are selling quicker and quicker as we go towards the end of the year. We'll go into reasons of why later, and we'll go into reasons of what you can do about this. But Dan's going to now cover the demand creation side of things and show us what's been going on in consumers' minds and heads to create the perfect storm, which means cars are selling so quick.
Thanks, buddy. So as we move into the actual effect on consumers and their habits, as I said before, there's a lot of positives which have come out of the back of this. So it has spurred significant demand. So these kind of 3 graphs here, these are from our previous sentiment studies. So each time that we did this following the pandemic, consumer confidence of being able to afford a vehicle actually increased. And it's really interesting because Nathan talking about kind of a supply and squeeze in the market, you know, you put your prices up in order to kind of control that stock management, but customers have been happy to pay it. You know, we've had a time where customers have been on furlough, so, you know, despite not being able to work, they've still been earning an income, they haven't traveled, they haven't needed to or want to, and all these things have actually created a really weird dynamic environment where we don't have enough stock, so we put the prices up, but customers are still buying them. And it's kind of a really weird place that we're in. But at the end of the day, it's still a positive. You know, used cars have been super buoyant, and it's a great opportunity in order to get those margins in those vehicles. But you should have a lot of confidence for yourselves, kind of way that probably isn't going to go away. That demand is going to stay there. And as a result of that, customers have also been used to shopping in different ways as well. So they've been open to delivery and click and collect and all these different bits and pieces, which is going to make you as a business think about how we operate and going forward. You know, there's going to be more things that you're going to have to offer as a business in order to accommodate what these consumers want. So 38% are more interested in buying a vehicle this year. So as we said, the main thing here is just think about what services are you offering, how can we make the most of this demand now. And the key thing as well is that not just thinking about, okay, if we don't have the vehicle to sell to this customer today, how are your sales guys or how are you, whether it's a contact center, actually handling these customers? What questions are you asking them? Are you capturing data, going back to marketing 101? Are you capturing data and capturing these customers? Are you moving them across to different vehicles, et cetera, et cetera? So it's just being a bit more dynamic in your processes. The interesting thing here, so coming back onto how consumers' lifestyles have changed. I mean, I've got friends and family who are maybe living in central London, and they're just not required to be in the office anymore. So why would you spend a £900,000 mortgage on a 1-bed apartment in central London? They're moving away, so they actually need to own a car now in order to get from A to B. And actually, it's a lot easier to do that than it is actually doing ride sharing or public transportation. So there's going to be many individuals who maybe never even entered the car buying journey before, and this is the first time they're doing that. So these stats, basically what they represent is that for those who used ride sharing or public transportation before the pandemic, only half of those are planning to actually return. So think of that additional demand that has been created as a direct result of the pandemic. And then just some interesting bits on the right-hand side, the reasons for wanting to own a vehicle. One is just the agility of being able to go from A to B, probably understanding that they can actually afford a car as well, with finance and bits and pieces, it's actually a lot more affordable than they initially thought. And just the fact that, whether it's revenge purchases, which is this kind of phrase going around in the market, or the fact they just want to go on holiday, they want to go see their friends, whatever it might be. So all these things are creating this additional demand in the market, and it's a massive opportunity for you guys to capitalize on. So the last bit that we're looking at here is, okay, so what does that mean? What sort of consumers are out there? Now, the interesting thing is this bit of data here shows that younger car buyers are more brand open. However, they're less confident. Now, you could look at that and say maybe they're less brand loyal, which is maybe a bit more of a pessimistic way of looking at it. So we like to try and say that it's, they're more brand open. But even in other data outside of the surveys that we've done that I've had a look at, retail confidence is starting to improve, and it has done over the last few weeks. And I know some of the talks today have mentioned about that as well. But actually, this generational effect of being more brand open is not just about young car buyers anymore. It's all of them. And obviously, that's been driven through the stock shortages. So customers are coming in, and typically they go to the same sales exec year after year, the same brand. It's nice and easy. It's nice and easy for the sales exec as well That's not happening because they don't have the vehicle, so they're having to force themselves to move to different brands. Again, it's another opportunity. So what are you doing, again, to capture those customers? And at the end of the day, the dealerships that are going to win are the ones who can obviously solve the stock issue, which is easier said than done. But then it's also this conquest business as well. And getting that in your mind, that conquest business is so apparent right now. And depending on how you're marketing yourself, so from an online perspective, again, with classified partners like ourselves, are you just limiting yourselves to your local areas? Or are you able to offer click and collect delivery? Do you transfer vehicles from your different stores as well? Are you advertising that online? So then you're not just physically advertising in that 25, 50 mile radius. If you've got a vehicle that a customer wants and maybe they're 65, 70 miles away, whatever it might be, you need to be there, because your customers are more open to even travel or want those services like click and collect and bits and pieces. So really interesting stuff here. And as I said, hopefully you can go away and just start thinking about, okay, how are we making the most of this opportunity? Maybe you've been a little bit behind in regards to offering delivery and click and collect. And again, logistically, it might not be possible for every business, but you want to go away and start thinking about, okay, at the end of the day, customers are going to want this. I know for a fact my parents never used Amazon Prime before. And they clicked a button and got their kind of thick toothpaste, toothbrush, whatever it might be, the next day. And it's like you think they're going to go back to driving to the supermarket, parking, paying for parking, queuing up, have to deal with all the people there, buying it, getting back in the car, sitting in 2 miles of traffic when they can click a button and do it. So that's going to change their behavior going forward. And the same will be for the automotive. Again, we understand the products that, it's going to take a little bit longer of these things. But at the end of the day, we need to be more agile as a business. And I think it's very positive what we have seen already. But hopefully it's now springing forward and saying, look, we're not going to go back to what we were before. At the end of the day, going into 2022, these are some new things that we can do going forward.
Thank you, Dan. So we're now going to go through some opportunities arising from the supply side issues and the demand creation. I think the breadth of what Dan just went through and all the different reasons for this demand creation, it shows that there's no quick fix and there's no simple solution. It is a multitude of different things that make this up. There's also no surprise that the supply shortages aren't going to change anytime soon either. So we've got 3 things to leave you with: maximizing retail efficiencies, adjusting prices, and connecting with car buyers. So if we start with number 1, maximizing retail efficiencies. We have seen many retailers be very lead rich this year, which is fantastic. The only issue with that is that we can get complacent with getting loads of leads into businesses, burning leads, maybe not nurturing them as much as we usually would have, and getting into bad habits there. 2 things you can do there is make sure that you've got great lead management systems in, you're recording every single lead that comes into the business, and you're also treating it right. So treat every lead like a gem, even if they are just simple one-liners. These are people who are in the market to buy a car. It doesn't necessarily matter what they say in that lead to you. It's your job to then capture it, nurture it, and turn it into an opportunity. We've also seen lots of businesses take a step back during lockdowns over the past 18 months and look at their business processes. They've tried lots of different things because they've had to, they've been forced to. Some of them have been fantastic, some of them haven't worked quite as well. Think about what you're going to keep, what you're going to implement in your wider business, and then what things you may have been doing for a very long time that don't actually pay off and you don't need to do anymore. Moving on to number 2, we've got adjust prices during the supply squeeze. So this is a pivotal one, and I think this is where the battles have been won and lost over the past 6 months or so, with dealers pricing daily. So daily price analysis, as these prices are going up, you're not leaving any money on the table. You're reappraising your cars accordingly to the market, and you're maximizing the profits. Not only is that important over the past 6 months, that's going to be even more important when prices start stabilizing and leveling out again, because you don't want to be caught on the other side of that. It's great. We've all heard stories about dealers that have done deals on a new car. The customers come in 2-3 months later. The price of their part exchange has obviously ballooned in that time, and you've got an amazing margin on that vehicle. That's great. What if it happens the other way around and it happens to you? You don't want to be leaving money on the table there. So appraise cars daily and get a really good data set to do that with. Don't rely on one data set. Don't rely on your own data. You've got to be tapping into multiple different places. So really build a marketplace of different types of data. Try and be proactive. I know it's very difficult with car prices. It's a very reactive thing sometimes, but it'll help you predict the future and you won't be left with money on the table there. Moving on to number 3, connect with all car buyers. 2 parts to this. First one, enhancing visibility. We saw a lot of retailers early on. They couldn't satisfy the demand with their local area, with lockdowns being prevalent and people not wanting as many cars early on. So they started looking out of area. they started looking at different marketplaces, different platforms, different ways of getting the stock out there and getting them customers into their business. Again, some of these worked amazingly well, some not so well. Some dealer groups who thought they were a local dealer group that served their local customers only suddenly opened their minds to thinking, okay, let's go out of area. Let's start doing delivery. Let's start advertising nationally. It's worked amazingly well for a lot of people. And then being consultative with less confident brand open customers, like Dan mentioned before, you've got a huge stock shortage here. And the issue with that is when people come to buy cars, it might already be sold. And again, that comes back to the systems issue. If your CMS isn't up to date, you can be trying to sell two salespeople selling the same car to the same person. If that has happened, are your salespeople then trying to get them into a different vehicle that suits their needs and demands? Or are they just saying, sorry, Mr. Customer, we don't have that car anymore, we can't serve you? So it's kind of winding back to the old school sales approach. Be consultative, help customers. Their needs might have changed in the meantime, and they might not even realize it. And the issue with that is they might just get the same car every 3 years. Yes, I do this many miles, this is what I do for work. A lot of people are doing less miles now. Maybe suggest an alternative because we are the experts. So not only in person, but obviously on your websites, online, get all of that content out there and just help people buy vehicles. We'll leave you on that one.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. We will take questions if anybody has any. There is a microphone going round. And after questions, if there are any, we do have a stand in the middle where you can come see Dan and I for any one-to-one chats as well. Thank you very much.
And we have a Formula One simulator as well. And I think best lap, fastest lap? No, not anymore. You're going to need to come back and try again. So do come over, try that. We do have a hamper to win as well. So we need to make sure someone challenges these guys because they're pretty good. But yeah, if there's no burning questions, then we'll let you guys go. And feel free to come over, say hello. We'll be here till the end of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.